Hi friends, it's nice to be with you today. Probably wrapping up a bit of my series on the catechism and the common good and solidarity and responsibility and freedom and all that kind of stuff. Just wanted to spend some time really digging into some of those questions about what it means for us to live together and how we as Catholics approach maybe some of the arguments that are happening in our public sphere right now. Today I'm not getting into the catechism. Today I want you to read a paragraph from an encyclical of Pope Benedict XVI. It's called The Truth and Love, Veritatis and Veritatis, I got to look at it, sorry. Caritas and Veritatis, there we go. And so I've got a link on the side for you. We're going to look at just one paragraph of it. I'm using my phone because my physical copy is over in the office today. I want you to read this, and then I'm going to share with you a passage of St. Paul that we're probably very familiar with, all right? A couple of lines from what Pope Benedict XVI wrote. Another important consideration is the common good. To love someone is to desire that person's good and to take effective steps to secure it. Besides the good of the individual, there is a good that is linked to living in society, the common good. It is the good of quote-unquote all of us, made up of individuals and families and intermediate groups who together constitute society. It is a good that is not sought for its own sake, but for the people who belong to the social community and who can only really and effectively pursue their good within it. To desire the common good and strive towards it is a requirement of justice and charity. I apologize, I didn't tell you exactly where that was. That's paragraph 7. So we can't get exactly the paragraph. So on that link, scroll down to paragraph 7. Feel free, read the whole thing. But as you can tell, my attention is especially about those first 3 or 4 sentences, right? We're talking about that Catholic ethos of the common good. As Christian people, we know that it's not just about us and Jesus. We know that God has saved us as a church. That one of the ways that God is saving the world is through the community. We also spent some time about how God has duly established society, that we are social creatures in the image and likeness of God, and that we are going to form society. So therefore, it's not just about us getting ahead. It is about desiring the common good of all. And we spent some time with the Catechism working on some of that stuff last week. Pope Benedict reminds us that the desire to serve the common good, it's not just enough to desire it, because to love is to will the good of another. So we have to desire it, but then we also must execute in that regard, taking effective steps to secure the common good of all. The thing that I really appreciated about what Pope Benedict wrote, the reason why I thought that it was good to kind of cap all of these conversations off is because he links it. The common good and action and justice, all of it though, tied together with charity. Now remember, the Latin word for charity means 2 things in English. It means love, and it also means charity, like taking care of those who don't have as much as us. But I just want you to remember, it is all about love. And that's what I want to focus on as we kind of wrap up this series. I've done some heady stuff. I've done some boring stuff. Duties, obedience, responsibility, freedom. I mean, I've probably run anybody off that's watching these noon things with these boring things from the Catechism. And so it's good to remember that we can go through life just punching the clock and doing our duty. And that's pretty dry. And that's fairly lifeless a lot of times for people. But Pope Benedict reminds us that through all of this stuff is woven love. You know, and you think about the love that we have experienced from God. The times in our lives that we have known that we are cared for, that we are loved, that we belong. To now want to extend that to vulnerable members of society, to the poor, the outcast, desiring the common good of all, right? We take that experience of love that we've had and we seek to use that love to bind together the entire human family. What I'd invite you to pray into this morning, in addition to that paragraph from Pope Benedict, is I would invite you to spend a little bit of time with St. Paul. Chapter 13 of his first letter to the Corinthians. This is a reading that we especially encounter at weddings, but it's not actually about marriage, right? And he's talking about, let me show you the greatest spiritual path. And it's not about, it's not about being super smart and knowing everything and speaking and having all these abilities. It's not about all sorts of great deeds and being able to discipline ourselves in all things. Those are good. But underneath it, the greatest of all of it, is love. And then he speaks eloquently, as we well know. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is never jealous, never pompous, never boastful. Love can endure all things, he says. Just want you to spend a little bit of time with that passage of love. Remember, it's not just about marriage, or even it's not about marriage, although you can use it for marriage. It's about the Christian life. And it's about being loved and sharing that love with everybody in attitude, but also in action. Again, spend 5 minutes, spend 20 minutes thinking about the love that we desire to extend to the entire community, the love that we've experienced from God, and praying that God would help us to appreciate more the common good of all people. Let's continue to act and to pray and to work that love of Jesus Christ might extend to all people and to the entire world. Hey, remember, even though we are not gathering, we are still the church. We share spiritual communion with each other. We love each other. We offer small sacrifices for each other. We pray for each other. We do small acts of service, physically distant from each other, because we share a spiritual communion that is stronger than any pandemic. Know that I'm praying for you. God bless you. Have a great Wednesday.